Okay, Jonathan B just made a video talking about the importance of learning philosophy and at the same time its uselessness. So it's it's important in the sense that even in the world of AI and technology, so much of semantics is needed. So instead of just purely numerical data, we also need words. Whenever we try to prompt AI, we don't just use numerical formulas. We also need specific structures and patterns of words and consequently ideas, and philosophy is a great domain for that, in engaging with words and ideas. But at the same time, he talks about how philosophy just in itself is valuable. Just the act of doing philosophy, not for instrumental reasons to attain results for the material world, like to build an airplane or to cure cancer or to get to some place or whatever, but knowledge in itself that is relevant to you, your own life as a person, in your everyday decision making, in your relationship with a friend, with a partner, with your parents, with just these hyper specific personal things, where even if outside external data would be helpful, at the end of the day, still you manipulating all these data and interpreting them and deciding how exactly you will apply them to your contextualized situations. But I would just like to comment on that because I don't think he clarified what he means by philosophy. And while he was talking about philosophy, obviously he quoted all these philosophers, Rousseau and the Stoics. And I guess he didn't. I guess I like that he didn't really specify what he means by philosophy because I like that it's open. It gives this openness to discourse. Although even if he did try to define it, it could still be a prompt for discourse. But anyway, conventionally we accept philosophy to be a established field of knowledge, right? And so when we think of philosophy, we think of piles of books, writings, decades of men, emphasis on men, but decades, centuries of men just writing to each other. I mean, yeah, that could be women, but anyway, but like, it's mostly men. If you look at the canon, at least, just people, laying out hundreds, thousands of pages about their propositions, their arguments, their systems of beliefs, whatever, that ultimately, essentially, as proposed by Johnathan B, is to help us live our personal lives better, to help us make better decisions, to help us be better people. That is, at least, if I don't think that is the absolute value answer for why people do philosophy, but it is an answer that many people have, right? That conventionally we accept that, yeah, we study philosophy to be a better person, to learn how to deal with our personal lives better, to know how to treat my friend, how to respond to this particular situation when it comes, like, if my friend suddenly is stuck in this dilemma, and it puts me as well in the moral dilemma of should I do this or that when it comes to this, like what is of higher priority, what is of higher value, what is right or wrong in this specific kind of situation. So we study all these absolutes, these fundamentals, these foundational knowledge. Well, for some people, they think they have worth in themselves, just that contemplation of foundations themselves. But for many people, we learn these foundations, at least for me personally, I also try to learn these principles, these foundations, not really for themselves, although I do get pleasure just by contemplating them by themselves, like mental masturbation or whatever. But I was initially attracted to that act, and I was initially drawn towards that because I find that I need to learn about them so I can deal with my personal shit, because I resonate with them through my concrete experience of the manifestations of those foundational knowledge or principles. But here, Johnathan B elaborates on why we need that. So a lot of it is like, right, like abstract reasoning, whatever, for us to better learn how to be a person, whatever, so we need philosophy for that, all these articulation of human experience. But in the first place, I'm also thinking that philosophy in itself does not give us any answer. It is he doesn't say it gives us the answer, but it's a common misconception for people to think that philosophy will save me, philosophy will help me, whatever. But philosophy is just like another arena among the thousands of arenas on learning how to be a better person. And you know how the more directly you try to grasp something, the more it slips between your fingers. Okay, that's so vague, but let's say literature. Okay, you may not be a philosophy person. You may even hate philosophy, or at least the academic, traditional way of doing, conventional way of doing philosophy. But instead, you might be into poetry. You might be into short stories, novels, and you learn so much from these. You learn to empathize. You learn to reference certain passages or scenarios from a novel in your own experiences. Although you don't completely rely on them, but they serve as supplements, right? And so I think, I guess it's already obvious, but philosophy is a domain. Yeah, it's a supplement, but it's not. Wisdom from life doesn't come from philosophy itself. Although I think it's an important component. All this reflection, all this abstractization of experiences, of the human experience. But in the first place, you need an actual human experience first to be able to actually reflect on it, to be able to actually abstractize or create arguments, propositions about something. You cannot create any proposition, any reflection on something you have never you can actually on something you've never experienced, but to truly if the premise of this whole studying philosophy is for me to learn how to be a better person, or to be more exact, to learn how to deal with my relationships better and with my decision making better in my everyday life better, reflection isn't enough. Experience is the best teacher, right? I agree. Although experience in itself, sometimes it's not enough, right? Sometimes. But it is very, very integral and very, very powerful, the act of experiencing something. What I mean by that is this. You cannot really convince someone, maybe some people, but you can't convince everyone to stop something. For instance, let's say someone who's into smoking, right? You can list down all your arguments, all your propositions, create thousands of pages, hundreds, whatever, create very structured, well written articulations, all that good ass semantic play for someone to stop smoking, but they could still not really, because it's all mental. But once that someone actually gets like very personal, intense experiences of why they should stop smoking, like let's say certain things happen in their life where they're like, I experienced this again and again. So something in them shifts, not really because of mental ideas and wordplay, but it's this unexplainable feeling and conviction that can only come from sets of experiences. So I think philosophy is most powerful once you pair it with actual human experience. Because if we're just gonna talk about philosophy in its complete, you know, and it's just purely in, I don't know how to say it, like, if we're just gonna get stuck in all this Hegelian, stoic, analytic, whatever term you want to say, like, for us to actually apply philosophy in our actual lives, we have to ironically live our lives first, you know. And then the other idea is this, that philosophy is not just memorizing all these philosophers and familiarizing yourself with all these schools of thought and all their main ideas and beliefs, arguments, whatever, ideologies. If you go back to Socrates, I don't know if he read much, but he was just walking around his town, talking up to people, experiencing his life, conversating. Actually doing philosophy is not just sitting in your room and reading all these pages. Philosophy is talking to your friend face to face at a coffee shop or just at the playground, you guys are at the swing and you just sharing what happened with your day, that one thing that happened with your day, and you say a couple of sentences as a reflection of what happened to me. That's philosophy. Or that's one way of doing philosophy. And I think that is very much an overlooked, undervalued way of doing it. And that's why philosophy can also make you really out of touch if we limit ourselves to that one particular conventional, traditional, accepted way of doing philosophy, where when you imagine it, it's thousands of books piled up into one another. Although I still like that. I still think we should be open to that, but I don't think we should constrict our conception of philosophy to that, Let me give a final example. There are certain people in my life who I admire so much and look up to because of who they are as a person, not because of their accomplishments. Maybe that's a little part of it, but accomplishments in connection to how they got there and how it fits with them who they are. But like in general, like as a person, I like how they relate to the people in their lives, to their families, to their friends. I like how they're able to embody, I think that's the key word here, embody all the philosophy that philosophers drag their head about, like, being a moral person, an ethical person. But I see some of my friends seeming just like the epitome of what all these philosophers talk about, and yet they don't even read any philosophy, and yet they are able to be so intuitive and caring and loving to the people around them, and they're able to be wise. But not just wise in a this is rational, whatever, but wise in a being sensitive to what a situation really needs. Okay? Not wise in the, they know the fucking principles of foundations of life, of the human experience. I don't know if they know shit about the foundations of the human experience, or if when I say no, I mean no in a they can articulate it, they can write it down on paper and tell you what it is, but in their hearts, in their spirit, they live out that knowledge. They may not be conscious of that knowledge semantically as compared to philosophers, but when it comes to actually living it in their lives, they do a lot better work than many of the philosophers that I know. So what is that? They can actually be a better human. And that's a big statement, be a better human, but I think they're embodying all the shit that the philosophers say about being a good person better than many actual philosophers that I know who are obsessed with talking about it all the time. So beyond the worlds of what Johnathan B said are semantic and numeric, there is another world. There's a world in this material world that we tend to overlook, the knowledge of experience, right? It's the knowledge of experience where we derive data in the first place to philosophize about, and at the same time, which is it's like for me, both the means and ends of philosophizing experience. I'm not done. So if experience is necessary to, at least, I don't even want to say philosophizing, but if experience is necessary for the goal of knowing how to be human, or if experience is necessary to learn how to better deal with personal situations, how can we do that if we are being deprived of actual human experience more and more as AI, as technology increases in its pervasiveness and power? By that I mean because we think of, when we think of making something, of accomplishing something, we think of it in a very utilitarian sense, right? That how to say this? I want a guitar, but I don't want to have to spend my entire week culminating all the materials for a guitar. So I'll just let technology, I'll just buy a factory made guitar or something. Or how to say this, when we think of utilitarian value, we think of the physical product itself, right? The final made product. It's like everything that all our hard work and all the process of doing things, we think that their value is in the final product of a shirt, of a packaged food, give me the actual thing. It's like, even in AI, we want the actual answer already. That's why we go to ChatGPT. We don't want to go through the whole process of researching things ourselves and finding the passages in the book and getting in the rabbit hole of going from one name to another in our search for the answer. We don't want to go through that whole journey and process. We want the answer already. But there's so many things in life where the product, attains its value through our engagement with the creation of that product. You get what I mean? So, for instance, that's why I think in this area I'm kind of talking about art already. So in art, when I talk about art, I don't just mean drawing or painting or poetry. I also mean the art of making shoes, the art of stitching, the art of making your crochets of whatever, or even the act of learning how to dance. The art of learning how to dance. So if you just want the finished product already, of you learning how to dance, you miss out so much of all of the extra details that actually give you the very wisdom of what dancing is. Okay, maybe you would know how to dance already. You could wish from a genie, hey, I want to learn how to dance. Boom, you got it. You're dancing already. But that whole process of that painful journey, or where you put in so much effort, time, and energy, every instance there contributes to a deeper, more meaningful, I think that's it, more meaningful and more personal relationship with the product, or a more personal engagement with the product. So, it's like, once you finally have everything you want, all the products that you want, in just a snap of a finger, all the results that you want in the snap of a finger, wouldn't you just feel empty so quickly? Like, it comes to a point where you're like, what's the point of all this? But the point of all that, you learn it through the process of getting there, of the process of the journey towards that final product. But once you eliminate that journey, that's when it becomes meaningless. But you know what they say, like, it's the friends you make along the way, not really the destination. Although the destination obviously matters, but like, it's experience basically is this maximalized, intensified, compiled details of everything there could be. Just all these, imagine basically details, okay? And once you remove experience, that personal, actual, concrete engagement with something, you remove such a very essential part of being human. And that's what AI deprives us of. That experience of letting your curiosity take you to places. When you're studying something, AI deprives you of that human engagement with trying to seek knowledge and wonder and curiosity. AI deprives you of there's this phenomenon right now where people are making AI their therapists, or even their friends, their best friends, their fucking boyfriends. What does that deprive us of? The actual human experience of going out or reconnecting with an old friend when you feel lonely. No, you go to AI because it's easier, it's more convenient, it's hard as fuck to gather up the courage to text your friend and be like, do you want to try going to that place we used to go? I know it's been ages. It's harder to get through the anxiety of hitting up a friend. So we go to AI. And sure, maybe we get that product of responses, of some sort of company, or of some sort of response to our problems. But the actual human experience, of trying to connect to someone in the first place, of reaching out to someone, and then that someone accepting the fucking, and then you finally sitting in the coffee shop and you realizing, oh, this wasn't as bad as I feared it would be. The euphoria that you get from that experience is incomparable to an AI giving you the most perfect curated therapist-like responses. Yeah, maybe AI isn't being biased. Maybe AI isn't Maybe AI is being very objective with your situation, and you like that the AI isn't being judgmental, but if our goal here is to be as human as possible, I think our fear of imperfections, and not just literary but imperfections from others, and mistakes, and hard work, of actual engagement, our fear basically of actual engagement with real things from this world, that fear hinders us from actually engaging with the human world, and therefore forgetting to be human. So in philosophy, a lot of it really is just it's a reminder that it's a rumination on being human, on the human experience, or on the things that concern us the most, which they call foundations or principles or whatever they want to call it. But what would be the use of philosophy once we actually forget the act of hitting up a friend, or trying to learn a topic just because we really like it, and not just because we like engaging with it, and not really because we just want to get an assignment over with. We want the final product, or yeah, okay.